Hello, good morning. Welcome back to the Celtic Way. It's Wednesday, the 19th of November. I am Tony Haggerty, and I'm joined by Ryan McGinley. Ryan, I want to ask you one question. Can you boogie? Because Scotland are going to the World Cup finals for the first time in your lifetime. I don't know how you feel about that. I'm sure you're pretty ecstatic. But yeah, KT helped Steve Clarke's Scotland to a 4-2 win over Denmark. Absolutely dramatic scenes. Three of the finest goals you've ever seen in an international football match. But Ryan, I want to ask you, that's a generational game, sir, as Brendan Rodgers called it once against RB Leipzig. How did it feel watching that?
Just to correct you slightly, I was one the last time Scotland went to the World Cup in 1998, or I was 0 coming up on 1. So I've been around when Scotland got to a World Cup, but I can't remember it. This is really the first one for me. A real generational moment last night. A real euphoric moment after watching so many campaigns, after watching Scotland get so close against Ukraine, seeing them go through to European championships was good, but this feels like a step up, and what a way to do it. It would only be like Scotland to put you through the ringer, and then put you through the ringer, and then put you through the ringer again. But they did that. But looking back on it, how many big moments were in that game. Scott McTominay scores one of the greatest goals Hampden will ever see. Arguably the best goal since Zidane scored that screamer in the Champions League final against Bayer Leverkusen, and yet somehow that goal seems to be getting forgotten about almost. It's just that sort of night. Incredible, and I'm absolutely delighted for Kieran Tierney as well to score the winner on the night. Kenny McLean's goal's absolutely brilliant, but Kieran Tierney scores the winner on the night, and it was congratulations to everybody involved, really, is long story short of what I'm trying to say.
We'll get onto that. We'll get on to talking about Kieran Tierney, but first and foremost, we say thank you to our sponsors, who are It's Simply Furniture, and they're located in Hillington, Glasgow. And It's Simply Furniture are an independent brand dedicated to bringing luxury and contemporary style into homes across the UK. They've got over a decade of experience in furniture retail, and they meticulously source only the finest pieces curated for quality, comfort, and timeless designs. From elegant sofas to statement dining sets, their hand-picked collections offer exceptional value without compromising style, and their dedicated team ensure that your furniture is delivered with care right to your doorstep. And if you want to see the beauty up close, you can visit their stunning showroom in Hillington and mention the Celtic Way for a special in-store discount. And the links to all their socials will be in the description of this podcast. Ryan, where do you start with that? I think poor old Lawrence Shankland, who scored a vital goal as well, but it's just going to get glossed over, isn't it, because of what happened. But the moment where everybody started believing again, Ryan, was when Kieran Tierney bends a beauty round his teammate, Kasper Schmeichel. Poor Kasper, but I think Denmark will be okay in the playoffs, don't you?
I would agree with that. And Denmark, let's call a spade. Denmark with a better footballing side last night, both with 11 men and 10 men. But thank goodness, and Scotland got through to the World Cup. I think Denmark will be absolutely fine, and the playoffs will be one of the better sides in the playoffs, and they'll be hoping to book their place next year's World Cup. They will see the end of this qualification campaign as them completely blowing it. The damage was largely done against Belarus. Scotland were defeated against Greece. All Denmark had to do was win, and they were through. And Belarus, got their first point of the campaign. They actually got their second point last night as well. So it shows that they have got better as the competitions or the qualifying stages went on. There's so that you don't really know where to start with it all, and it's quite fitting that when you're discussing the game, it's all over the place, because that's the way that the game was last night. The game was chaotic. It had its good moments, it had its bad moments. I think the game changed though when, and quite rightly, when Denmark got a man sent off, when Christensen got sent off. Even though Denmark did continue to play well, there was a little bit of a vulnerability in their team once they went down to 10 men, and Steve Clarke immediately felt that, even though Denmark went and scored the equaliser from Patrick Dorgu, who for me was the best player in the park last night, I would say. They still managed to go and push on, and in that moment from Kieran Tierney, I don't know how many times I've watched it since last night. It must be in the 50s, 60s mark. What a moment for him. Probably the biggest moment of his career.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant strike. Put Scotland 3-2 up, kind of in injury time, and just sparked utter scenes of bedlam. This is what Kieran Tierney had to say about his goal, Ryan. Those comments are on the website. Ryan has put them up if you want to have a read at that. He said, "It was surreal. I've never really scored a goal as important as that. What a feeling it was for the country, for the fans, for the staff. I think we all deserve it for how hard we've worked and what we've been through over the last few years. Getting to the World Cup finals tops it off for this group because it's something we haven't managed to do before, and we've done it the hard way. It's very special because the last few years I've been through a lot with different injuries and different things. That's football and that's life. I've just been trying to work hard and give my best by grinding through the hard times. Moments like that make it all worth it. I don't know what was going through in my mind. I ran in one direction. Somebody on the edge told me to take a touch. I don't know who it was. I hit it and I caught it nicely. Kasper Schmeichel is a great keeper, so to beat him from outside the box, it has to be a really good strike. Then Kenny McLean goes and takes the pressure off with his goal at the end. What a feeling it was." I think he just kind of summed it up there for everybody, Ryan. What a feeling. Three of the best goals you'll ever see at international level at Hampden last night. Scott McTominay, take a bow, sir. Kenny McLean, take a bow. Kieran Tierney, take a bow. I mean, just absolutely brilliant. I don't think you'll ever see that again from our Scotland team, Ryan. I've got to be honest.
No, and it was a game that changed so many times because in the early stages, it was a great goal by Scott McTominay, a tremendous goal. But not just that, the fact that Ben Gannon-Doak puts the ball into Scott McTominay, former Celtic player, Celtic Academy player, played a couple of games for the first team as well. It really looked as if they were getting something from Gannon-Doak down that side, and then he got injured and the game changed because Scotland all of a sudden didn't have an out ball. They moved Ryan Christie, former Celtic player, out to the right hand side. But you lose his tenacity in the middle of the park as well. You miss what he brings at Bournemouth, Ryan Christie, the box-to-box midfielder that's been so good over the past year, 2 years. So Scotland were a wee bit negated in that sense, that where they lost something in the midfield. But they did so well to rally. And despite Denmark having the lion's share of possession, they hung on. In their first half, there was some real valiant defending by not just the back line, but the midfield and the attackers coming back and making themselves a nuisance. And in the second half, it was chaotic, but that suited Scotland. If it was going to be a football game, if it was going to be a technical game, then it was very likely that likes of Damsgaard, the players coming off the bench for Denmark as well, Rasmus Højlund playing. If it was going to become a technical game, then it would have suited Denmark, but thankfully there was chaos involved, and that suited Scotland at Hampden. And if you're going to win a game of football in 90 minutes, then do it like that with those two late goals. Incredible scenes, they're scenes that will be ingrained into my head forever. Just an incredible moment, incredible 5-6 minutes of injury time. You're still reeling over the euphoria of Kieran Tierney's goal, and then Kenny McLean inexplicably chips Kasper Schmeichel from the halfway line. It was just an incredible night, and I'm so delighted for the whole Scotland team. I'm aware that this is a Celtic podcast, but we've got to give Scotland credit where it's due, and there's so many Celtic connections that played their part last night.
I tell you how bedlam it was, Ryan. I was in the house myself with my 5 dogs. Regular listeners to the pod will know my dogs make noise. I sent all the dogs upstairs because of my absolute bedlam, going absolutely mental, jumping around, and they all ran up the stairs in fright. So that was a moment in sport. Cause a fight in an empty house, as somebody would say. Yes, I nearly did last night. But yeah, well done to Steve Clark, well done to Scotland, well done to Kieran Tierney for a stunning strike, well done to McTominay, and well done to Kenny McLean and Lawrence Shankland, not forgetting him as well. Sorry, Ryan, you going to say something?
Yeah, just while we're on the topic of amazing goals, we are currently running an offer featuring a man that got a couple of amazing goals for Celtic. It's a Black Friday deal. Shunsuke Nakamura. You can get 1 year of the Celtic Way for only £12 if you go to www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Plus, you'll get a free Shunsuke Nakamura print from renowned football artist made by Frankie. This is the latest of many prints that we've done with Made by Frankie, and I've got to say, Tony, this is one of my favourite ones. A cult hero, a bona fide hero at Celtic, one of my early sort of heroes growing up watching, supporting Celtic, and it can be yours for just £12. Not just that, you'll also get a year's subscription of the Celtic Way. So all you have to do is go to www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe and get involved, guys. And we thank everybody that's taken this offer up so far.
Indeed. Now, on to matters more Celtic, Ryan. And while Scotland were doing their thing, the Celtic board were not reading the room again, Ryan, with a statement last night about the Green Brigade and being called to a meeting with the Glasgow City Council Safety Advisory Group to consider recent events. That meeting's going to be held on Thursday, November the 20th. And it's concerning the 3-match ban that was issued to the Green Brigade after the alleged assault of a steward and 2 police officers during the match against Falkirk on October the 29th. The Celtic statement said that the Green Brigade described the incident as extremely minor, but the club have rejected that description, branding it evidently wrong, and Celtic claim that the Green Brigade have ignored the banning order. Now, Celtic have been contacted by the SAG, that's the Safety Advisory Group, and who from Glasgow City Council, and they're responsible for issuing safety certificates at Celtic Park and other venues. And the Green Brigade want to be represented at that meeting, but a Celtic statement posted on the club website last night said that supporters will be aware of the 3 home game ban issued to the Green Brigade this month following the assault of a steward and 2 police officers during an incident at the Falkirk game on October the 29th, which involved around 100 of the group's members. This incident is the subject of an ongoing investigation. The Green Brigade has written to the club describing the incident as extremely minor. As can be seen from the footage released by the club, this is evidently wrong. The conduct on October the 29th followed a large organised pyrotechnic display and unauthorised access to parts of the stadium by members of the Green Brigade at the final game of last season. Despite implementation of the ban on November the 7th, the Green Brigade chose to ignore the sanction. In light of the conduct of the Green Brigade, the club has been contacted by the Safety Advisory Group for Glasgow City Council and has been advised of their decision to hold a special meeting of the Safety Advisory Group on Thursday, November 20, to consider recent events. The Safety Advisory Group is comprised of a number of public authorities and emergency services and is responsible for advising Glasgow City Council on the issuing of safety certificates at Celtic Park and other grounds. Any suggestion that this matter is motivated by the club's reaction to wider fan protest is completely misleading and disingenuous. Ryan, what's your thoughts on that?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because you're hearing 2 sides of a story. There's 3 versions of a story is what I'll always say. You've got one side, the other side, and the truth is somewhere in the middle between the 2. It's more disharmony, to be honest with you. And
Yep.
I welcome any safety meeting that's arranged by any group in order to make Celtic Park a safer place for all fans to go to, and for anybody attending Celtic Park, for it to be a safer place to go to. But this is just more disharmony when the club doesn't need it at this moment in time. As we're going to speak about in a couple of minutes, there's an AGM coming up which is likely to be quite frosty in terms of the shareholders' responses to whatever the hierarchy has to say. There's 3 sides, as I said, one side, the other side, and the truth. I just hope that the truth does come out in the best place, and in the easiest way possible. But it's more disharmony when the club just does not need it at the moment.
I'll ask you this, Ryan. AGM on Friday that you mentioned, it's going to be vitriolic, isn't it? You said frosty. I think vitriolic. I'm going to say on certain issues.
Just going off of prior AGMs though, sometimes it's a very different kind of supporter that goes to the AGM, and I'm not saying every supporter's like that, but they've all got their own specific wants and needs and what they want to be addressed by the hierarchy. I would hope that, and my big thing for this AGM, or my hope and want, is that the hierarchy of the club, the board members, they understand the tone that needs to be set at this. They need to come in acknowledging and understanding that they have messed up in some areas, and that they've got to be making moves to address those mistakes that have been made in the past year since the last AGM, both in the transfer window and on the pitch. One being the consequence of the other, and vice versa, in my opinion. I'm interested to hear of what the mood music's going to be like at the AGM on Friday. I await it with bated breath. I'm hoping that the club give answers, though I'm not expecting there to be miraculous statements from the board or amazing answers. Answers have got to be given to the supporters. Whether or not those answers will be sufficient enough to whet the appetite of the support who want changes to be enacted is another story, in my opinion.
Yeah. Now, on the subject of the AGM, I have written a piece about issues that the board must address. I picked 7 key issues. It's on the website there. I put it into the group chat for your delectation. You can have a read at that and see what you think. And I'm aware there's all sorts of issues and a myriad of issues, but I picked a few that I think the Celtic supporters would be uppermost in their minds, Ryan. 7 questions. The new manager update. What was the Dermot Desmond intervention thought process? What's the plan to improve repeated failures in Europe? Is the summer transfer window botch going to be acknowledged? Where's the board's new blood? Why hold the cash? How can they heal the fan rift? That's a kind of brief summary of the questions that I try and kind of have a wee look at there. So you can have a look at that and see what you think. It's on the website right now. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of off the top of the bat, Ryan, or straight off the bat and off the top of my head. That's kind of questions I think the fans will demand answers to. Whether or not they get sufficient answers to those issues is another thing. But I don't think the kind of normal diplomacy of AGMs and the kind of straightforwardness of it all, I don't think it will wash this time.
No, I would agree. I agree with all 7 points that you've made in that article, and I urge everybody to read that article that's available now on the Celtic Way. A new manager update. You're hoping that over the next day or so we would hear more about the potential manager coming through the door. Now we all expect that to be Wilfred Nonce, the Columbus Crew manager, head coach, to become the new Celtic manager. There's nobody else. He's the only link at the moment. He's the preferred candidate. He's the only person that people are talking about. So we would hope that there is an update on that front, and maybe there's a question to be asked on why he's not already been brought in to the club. What's the hold up? Why is he not in place for the game against St Mirren? Why, despite me not having any problem with Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney being in interim charge for the game against St Mirren, they've had 2 weeks, over 2 weeks. They've had 3 weeks since Brendan Rodgers left the club. Why is a new manager not in place when you see other clubs being able to do that? Even look across the city, they managed to get in a manager eventually. Also, Wolves down south, they get a new manager in as speedy as that. So why is it taking longer for Celtic to bring in? Is it because they're waiting on the preferred candidate? Are they trying to hash out compensation? Are they trying to get a better deal on the compensation? These are questions that, if a manager hasn't been announced ahead of the AGM, you'd expect it to be asked by one of the members or one of the shareholders that are present at the AGM. Unfortunately, I just don't think that there will be an answer with the hit piece that Dermot Desmond had on Brendan Rodgers. As much as I think it's wishful thinking, because he won't be at the AGM. We don't think he'll be at the AGM. He's not really been at any of them. He'll send a delegate, maybe one of his family members. I know, was it Ross Desmond has attended quite a few of them. I don't think you'll get an answer on that to be honest, which just I think it poses more questions than answers in that regard. And then the transfer window. I know they acknowledged it in the fan meeting, but I think in a public domain like the AGM, in which the quotes will be made public very, very soon after people say them, after the people in question say them, I think it's important for Celtic to have the right message and to not just acknowledge that there was failures in the transfer window, but actually underline the ways and the steps that they're taking so that that doesn't happen again, because it's repeated behaviour and it's something that's got to be nipped in the bud, especially with a new manager coming in who want his own players in January.
It wasn't failure, Ryan, for me. That was a spectacular failure
Yeah.
in that transfer window. And as you say, it's a pattern of behaviour which is unacceptable to any manager, let alone the new man, whoever that may be. You know, there's lots of murmurings about the Nonsi deal collapsing et al, Ryan, and Celtic are taking their time over it. You know, I've said whoever it is, Celtic will get behind them. But do you think that Nonsi is the preferred candidate, and are Celtic talking to any others, which is why there's a delay? Are you fully convinced that it's Nonsi?
Yeah, now, to be honest with you, because just simply down to the fact that we've not heard any other name. Now, I know, and even you can make the example on the other end of the city, they had a preferred candidate in Stephen Gerrard, and they only spoke to him, and then he turned the job down, and they had to go into different candidates. They went to Muscat, he turned the job down, and it was Danny Rowe that got the job. So I do think that there'll be other candidates, but Nonsi will be the preferred candidate. Paul Tisdale's had what it seems to be quite a hands-on role in the recruitment of a new manager. You put two and two together, the fact that he's worked with Kwame Ampadu before at Exeter City. Even yesterday, L'Equipe were reporting that Rhymes, Rennes and Saint Etienne were all interested, or they've all sounded out Wilfried Nonsi in the past. The fact that he's a Frenchman would mean that it'd be an easy translation or an easy acclimatisation for him to get used to French football. But those three names, you know, I know Saint Etienne have had their troubles in recent years, but particularly a team like Rennes, if Rennes have been interested in a manager, a forward-thinking club that make a lot of money every year by selling their young players, then Celtic might be onto something here when it comes to Nonsi. And if he is to be the main man, then put all your eggs in the one basket and try and get him to the football club. It's important that Celtic get their top choice. And if Nonsi is to be their top choice, whether supporters like it or not, I think it's important that they get the right man in and they get their preferred candidate in, because I think that sets everything off in good stead for the club to move on from Brendan Rodgers, Martin O'Neill, and under the new management, under the new regime.
I also think that the lack of real concrete information that leads to speculation filling that void, Ryan. You know, the Celtic board are clearly conducting their due diligence with whoever the new manager is going to be, and it's being kept well under the radar, because there is, I think, for the first time in a long time, there's not been many leaks per se with regards to something like this, which usually you would get, a whole screed of information, but it's being slowly but surely drip fed out through some media channels. But I think a lot of people just haven't got a handle on it, because Celtic are keeping this as much in-house and under wraps as possible.
Yeah, and there was a point made by a few people online after Celtic put out that statement signalling that Martin O'Neill was still set to be an interim charge, saying, what's the point? Why put out that information? I think it's important that communication is there between the club and its supporters, because that was a big question that needed answered, and it was answered on Monday, thankfully, so that the rest of the week you know where things stand. If things are to change rapidly and a manager is in place, even though, I mean, it's Wednesday now, I wouldn't expect any manager now to come in and immediately take the team for Saturday night's game. I think that's too quick of a turnaround in terms of getting to know your new players, getting tactics implemented. Now, I actually think it would be an adverse reaction if you're to bring in somebody else. Why not just keep with the trusted interim manager that's done a good job so far? But that communication by the club. Yes, it was a short statement and a quick interview with Martin O'Neill, but I thought it was so handy to have, and welcoming the fact that they were admitting, right, we've not got this yet. We've not recruited a new manager as of yet, so we're sticking with what we've got at the moment. And once we update you, once we have news, we'll update you with said news. But I saw people moaning about that, and I was like, no, I think that's pretty good. Telling the supporters where they are at in the recruitment stage. They didn't need to, but they chose to, and I do think that they deserve credit for that.
I also think as well that the supporters are quite comfortable in the fact that Martin O'Neill's there, and we know it's only going to be for an interim spell in charge, but they're quite comfortable with Martin O'Neill being at the helm alongside Sean Maloney and Matt Fotheringham for, as I say, however many games that is. They feel quite safe and comforted by the fact that certainly domestically, Martin O'Neill he's got a handle on this, and he can win football matches. And the next football match for Celtic, Ryan, is a game on Saturday night against St Mirren in Paisley. And every game between now and when the new manager comes in, it's a must-win for Celtic because they're playing catch-up in the title race.
I believe that every game for Celtic is a must-win, because that's the nature of the beast that Celtic are,
of course.
To be honest with you. Every game is in the business end of the season, because the business never really stops for Celtic. The next game is the most important. The next game is a game that Celtic have got to win. But there's even more importance, as you quite rightly said, because they are playing catch up to Hearts at the moment, who, got to remember, they dropped points last time out. They'll been waiting for the end of this international break to think, right, we need to get back on the horse. We need to start winning games. Again, a couple of times that they have dropped points. It's an opportunity for Celtic to get some sort of form. And I know it's going to be difficult with form, because you've got the interim manager, and then it'll be a new manager in, so it completely changes. But you're hoping that there can be a transition as quickly as possible. I don't think it'll be against St Mirren. It might be during the week, when Celtic next play in Europe. But as long as it's soon, and as long as everybody knows where they're at when it comes to the interim manager leaving the club, the permanent manager coming in, all the stars are aligned and everything, and everybody's ready for what's to be a really busy period between the middle to end of November and March, essentially, which is the next international break, which actually will be an international break for a lot of the Scottish players, because they've got through to the World Cup and they'll be playing friendlies, which is always welcome. But yeah, I just want everything to be resolved as quickly as possible. It's been quite quiet on that front, but I would hope in the next couple of days ahead of this AGM that there's a bit of a breakthrough, that there's an agreement, and that the new manager, if it is to be Wilfred Noncy, is announced.
There you go. There's the dogs talking about the new manager and the dogs perk up. Yeah, I mean, it's like everything else, Ryan. It's the uncertainty. It's that limbo that the Celtic fans find themselves in, isn't it? With regards to information about the new manager. And I know they're not going to come out and say anything until a deal is concluded. You believe that man's going to be Wilfred Noncy, and all the information that has come out so far tends to suggest that he is going to be the man. So are you just saying that Kjetil Knutsen and Kieran McKenna are out the frame altogether? They're not even speaking to them, and they're just, as you say, going all out to get Wilfred Noncy?
I would be interested to see how far in the frame Kjetil Knutsen and Kieran McKenna were, for being honest. If we're talking about preferred candidates, was Wilfred Noncy the top candidate all this time? Because his name was linked with the club very soon, pretty soon after Brendan Rodgers left the club. He's one of those guys that I didn't recognise. It's one of the only names on the list that I just did not recognise whatsoever. And you do a little bit of research and then you understand maybe why he's been linked with the club. Another thing that I want to underline, Wilfred Noncy is not the cheap option for Celtic at all. The fact that he is under contract at Columbus Crew means that compensation will have to be paid in order to get him from his job at Columbus to Celtic in the region of, 1.5 to £2 million. That's quite expensive for a manager. Celtic don't normally pay those sorts of compensations for managers, so it's not the cheap option. I think that he's an up-and-coming manager. There's clearly there's French clubs that have been interested in him before they've sounded him out. Um, I just hope that Celtic have won a watch from this, and they've been the team, much like Ange Postecoglou, they've been the team to offer him an opportunity before anyone else. You know, you hear about these managers that do so well at other clubs, and then they get that initial role. I look at somebody like Enzo Maresca at Leicester and then Chelsea. I look at Andoni Iraola at Bournemouth. They usually get given an opportunity to ply their trade and show their credentials before that next step to a big club. Thankfully for Nonce, if it is to be him, he is getting that next step, but it is to a big club in Celtic. And what an opportunity it is for him, if it is to be him. Obviously, we're still waiting on official confirmation that a deal has been agreed between both sides, or the three sides really, because you get Celtic, Nonce and Columbus Crew to take into account. But if it is to be him, then you really wish him all the best, and you hope that he can hit the ground running, because his success will then mean Celtic's success.
Yeah, of course. Now there's part of me just clinging on to the hope that it might well be Kjetil Knutsen, and Celtic are looking at other people. I guess I'm ever the romantic when it comes to Celtic, and I'm hoping something might still materialise in that sense. I guess it might be a forlorn hope, but whilst Nonce is still not in position, Ryan, I'm willing to keep that flame flickering for as long as I can, until the next man is holding the scarf above his head and saying, I'm the next manager of Celtic. So, hope springs eternal and all that. Glass half full, as they say. But yes, indeed. But on to Saturday night, Ryan. What are you expecting from Saturday night? A tough match, as always.
Yeah, especially, yeah, and I made this point earlier on. St Mirren are a team that the table is a little bit. It's hiding how good a team St Mirren are, and I know they've not had the results that they maybe wanted, but they're in the League Cup final for a reason, because they're a good side, they're a physical side, they've got a really good manager in Stephen Robinson, who knows how to get the best out of his players, and I believe that they will pick up a head of steam as the season goes on. My hope is that it isn't on Saturday, and Celtic can get the 3 points. They can start their charge to moving into the top six after Saturday night, but Celtic have got a job to do. You're hoping that the players that have been away on international duty can shake that off and get back into Celtic mode. You're hoping that Kasper Schmeichel, well, to be fair, Kasper Schmeichel's a consummate professional. He'll be fine for the weekend. He'll be ready to play. Kieran Tierney will be riding high. Austin Trusty will be riding high, because he played during the night against he played for the USA during the night. I believe it was against Uruguay or Paraguay, one of the two. I know that the USA were playing the two of them. I'd have to double check that, but Austin Trusty did play, so good for him, and good that he got that run out against their opponents. But I'm just hoping that those players can shake off the international cobwebs almost, or that international feeling, and get back to domestic football. If they can do that, then I'm sure they can get the job done on Saturday, but they'll be coming up against a really good side in Stephen Robinson, St Mirren.
Indeed. Sean McLaren coming in saying to me, Ryan, Knutsen is a total pipe dream. I'm still dreaming. That's why. Eternal dreamer, but there you go. As I say,
it was Uruguay. It was Uruguay that they played, and the USA actually. The USA actually won 5-1 as well, so that was a great result for them.
Excellent, well done to Austin Trusty and the rest of his American teammates for that. That's an excellent result, as you say, Ryan. We'll wrap it up there, Ryan. I think we will. I think everybody's waiting to see what transpires from this AGM. As I say, you can look at that article that I put on the website, and you can subscribe to the website for a year. It costs you £12, and you'll get that Shunsuke Nakamura print from Football Artists made by Frankie. It is a cracker, as Ryan says, one of Ryan's first Celtic heroes, and I think you might have a few more now after Kieran Tierney's exploits at international level there last night. There's the links in the group chat there to subscribe to that if you fancy doing that. But thanks very much. Really enjoyed your company today, guys. About 500 people on the chat, Ryan. Chat was good. It was pretty lively. talking about a myriad of things. But well done, Kieran Tierney. Well done, Steve Clark. Well done, Scotland. Well done, Scott McTominay. Well done, Lawrence Shankland. Well done, Kenny McLean. All there, Ryan. Scotland are going to America, Mexico, and Canada, Ryan.
Yes, that's very, it's a sentence that I've not said in my, basically my whole life. I think it's important to underline how big a moment this is for Scotland, and quite rightly, people were celebrating it. The scenes in bars, pubs, homes across the country, and even beyond were absolutely incredible last night. And there was just there was a euphoria around it all, and long may that continue. Hopefully, the feel good factor can continue going into the World Cup next summer. It's now an even more interesting World Cup, knowing that Scotland will be there, regardless of where they're playing, whether it be Canada, the USA, or Mexico. Scotland, Steve Clark, Kieran Tierney, Tony Ralston, and all the rest will be there.
That's why we love football, Ryan, for moments like last night. Scotland put you through the ringer, and you don't always. It's usually it ends in crushing disappointment, but the highs are wonderful when they come along. Just taking a wee bit longer for this one to come along, Ryan, but I'm glad you enjoyed it, sir, and you'll enjoy seeing your nation at a World Cup finals for the first time, basically, or second time in your lifetime, but the one, at least this time you can remember, and you'll have some cherished memories of that. Thank you for your time today, young man. Sterling, an excellent contribution as always. Guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Don't know who'll be on, but I know I won't be, because I'll be on my rota day off, Ryan. There you go.
Yep, I don't think I'll be on as well. It'll be two different people that are on tomorrow, but I'm sure, and hopefully there'll be some more news to come regarding the Celtic manager, or the new Celtic manager, because we're now, the international break's over. We're now back to the nitty gritty, and it's a long road between now and March, and Celtic have got to get into gear.
Ultra marathon, is that what we call it, Ryan? That entered the football lexicon.
We don't use terms like that anymore. Yeah, I don't think we'll use terms like that anymore. It's whatever terms the new incumbent manager will whip up.
Fair enough. Take care, guys. We shall see you tomorrow. Same time, same back channel. Take it easy. Have a good one.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.